Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Bridget's fingers trembled as she returned the ultrasound wand to its cradle, the gel still glittering on the tip like a lie she couldn't erase. The room reeked of alcohol swabs and the light lavender Electra often sprayed on her wrists before appointments, as if the aroma could soften the edges of whatever truth was within her body. The monitor had turned off, but the image persisted in Bridget's mind. A uterus slanted like a broken wing, ovaries filled with pearl-sized cysts, and fallopian tubes twisted into knots no surgeon could untie. She'd seen worse. She has witnessed miracles. It was neither. Electra perched on the edge of the examination table, her paper robe crinkling beneath her thighs. She had came in beaming, as she often did, with that special kind of hope that made Bridget's chest ache. She was 34 years old, freshly married, and had been trying for 3 months. Her phone's calendar was marked with tiny red hearts for ovulation days. She had brought a list of questions scribbled on pale blue stationery, including, what about Clomid? Acupuncture? What about the new clinic in Portland? Bridget had promised answers. Instead, she found quiet where a future should have existed. Say it again, Electra whispered. Her speech was firm, but her hands betrayed her, with white knuckles where they grabbed the table edge. Bridget gulped. The words felt like gravel. You can't become pregnant. Not naturally. Not with intervention. Your anatomy. She paused, hating the clinical coldness that crept in as her own heart splintered. The damage is too extensive. Electra laughed sharply, almost like a growl. Damage. That is a funny word. Like I dropped a vase. She slid down the table, bare feet slamming on the linoleum. I have never been in a car accident. Never had PID. I've never even had an IUD. How does a body suddenly break? Bridget groped for the chart, needing something sturdy to clutch. Sometimes it is congenital. Sometimes the endometriosis is so severe that everything merges together. Yours is. She switched a page, despite knowing the figures by heart. Stage 4. Bilateral hydrosalpinx. You developed ovarian remnant syndrome after having a laparoscopic cystectomy when you were 22. The surgeon made a mistake. The scar tissue grew like ivy, Electra said, her gaze narrowing. You mean I've been walking around with a time bomb in my stomach for 12 years and no one noticed? I'm saying, Bridget stated slowly, that the body is a terrible record keeper. It does not send invoices for damage until the bill is due. The stillness stretched as thick as the goo drying on the wand. Outside, a delivery truck exploded. Inside, Electra's pulse thudded in Bridget's ears like a second heartbeat. She had delivered this news before, numerous times, in fact, but never to someone whose laugh she knew by heart, whose wedding photos still sat on her fridge, and whose husband once serviced Bridget's garbage disposal at 2 a.m. Because that is the type of people they were. Good individuals. People who deserved miracles. Electra turned to face the window. The blinds were halfway open, slicing sunshine across her face. Javier wants 4. She muttered quietly to herself. 2 sons and 2 daughters. He has picked out names. Mateo honors his grandfather. Luna because he claims I light up rooms. Her voice cracked with the last phrase, and she placed her forehead against the chilly glass. We practiced. In the darkness. Like idiots. Counting the days. Taking temperature. I purchased a large quantity of those dumb ovulation sticks. I peed on so many that I began dreaming in pink lines. Bridget's throat clenched. She recalled her own 17-year-old daughter, whom she had on a whim on a residency rotation in Louisiana. One night, one damaged condom, one life. She had never told Electra how many times she thanked the cosmos for that accident. Some ladies begged for scraps, while others were served feasts they had not earned. I can refer you to Dr. Patel, Bridget explained. She's the top reproductive endocrinologist in the state. IVF with a gestational carrier. Stop. Electra spun around, her eyes flaming. Stop talking as if there is a menu. As if I could just choose surrogacy with a side of donor eggs and a glass of Chardonnay. She laughed bitterly again. Do you remember what Javier said when I informed him I was late? He cried. Actual tears. He claimed he had always known I would be the mother of his children. As if it were written in the stars. She held herself, her nails pressing into her arms. What should I tell him now? Sorry, babe, but the stars were drunk. Bridget stood. The stool rolled back and struck the wall with a bang. Tell him the truth. When biology says no, you decide what family looks like. Electra's gaze was drawn to Bridget's belly, where subtle silver stretch marks could be seen above her scrub pants. Simple for you to say. You got lucky. The words landed hard. Bridget felt a surge of heat in her cheeks. There was no luck involved. I was 28, weary, and surviving off vending machine coffee. I hadn't planned her. I didn't deserve her any more than, she paused, frightened at how close she'd gotten to saying anything more than you deserve this. Electra's shoulders sagged. I apologize. That was cruel. No, Bridget responded. It was honest. Cruel and honest are housemates in this chamber. They stood there, two ladies in a 10-by-10 box, the air humming from the fridge that kept the speculums cold. Bridget wanted to reach out and smooth Electra's hair from her forehead, much like she did when her daughter had nightmares, but the space between them felt filled with eggs. Finally, Electra spoke. What happens if we do nothing? What if we just stop trying? Bridget exhaled. Your ache may worsen. Endometriosis could spread. You could lose an ovary. But you'd still be yourself. Still married. Still. She looked for the word. Whole. Electra's lips curled. Whole. Like a donut without a hole. Like a lady who isn't defined by her uterus, Bridget replied. The words tasted strange and radical, even to her own ears. She'd spent 15 years in her business chasing follicles like holy grails, and now she was preaching surrender. Electra approached the door, hand on the knob. I need to think, she said. Alone. Bridget nodded. Take as much time as you need. I'll be right here. The door clicked shut. Bridget slumped into the stool, the vinyl cracking beneath her weight. As if to confess, she glanced at the ultrasound machine, its screen blank. In the drawer beneath it, she had printed a snapshot of Electra's bleak landscape, labeled with arrows and dimensions. She should file it, arrange the follow-up, and proceed to the next patient, whose name was already blinking on her pager. Instead, she opened the drawer, grabbed the image, and ripped it in half. Then quarters. Then eighths. The bits fluttered into the trash like snowflakes. She did not cry. Not yet. There would be time for that later, in the car, with the noise turned up loud enough to drown out her own heartbeat. Javier was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against their old Subaru with the bent fender and the bumper sticker that said adventure awaits. When he saw Electra, he straightened up, his face splitting into the grin that had prompted her to agree to a second date, a third, and a ring. Then he noticed her red-rimmed eyes, even in the shade, and his grin wavered. Hey, mi vida, he spoke softly. How did it go? Electra opened her mouth, but no sound emerged. Javier took 3 strides across the street, gathering her into his arms. She buried her face in his shirt, smelling the scent of sawdust and the citrus soap he used, which reminded him of his abuela's kitchen. His hand massaged her back in slow circles, as he did when she had headaches or when the world seemed too sharp. Tell me, he said softly into her hair. She pushed back just enough to meet his gaze. I can't have babies, Javi. My body is broken. Like, forever. The words lingered between them, nasty and irreparable. Javier's face did not crumple as she had expected. Instead, something powerful blazed over it, perhaps rage or resolve. Okay, he said. Okay. Electra's voice raised. Is that it? Okay? He grabbed her face, thumb stroking against her cheeks. Okay, we figured it out. Together. For example, we used YouTube and duct tape to mend a leaky roof. We worked out how to live on one paycheck after I was laid off. Electra, we're good at figuring. She wanted to believe him. God, she did. But Bridget's torn-up sonogram, with its white bits resembling bones, sprang to mind. What if there is nothing to figure? She whispered. What if this is the conclusion of the story? Javier's eyes, the color of river stones after rain, remained unwavering. Then we write a new chapter. Adoption. Foster care. A house filled with dogs. Hell, we could create a bookstore and let youngsters read for free. Family is more than just DNA, darling. It's. He motioned vaguely to the sky, the parking lot, and the taco truck idling close. It is this. Us. Choosing each other every damn day. Electra's knees buckled. Javier caught her and sat them both down on the curb. The asphalt felt warm through her jeans. A minivan pulled up, blasting reggaeton. A toddler waved from the back seat. Electra waved back and burst into tears. I wanted to give you Luna, she wailed on his shoulder. Javier rocked her, saying, I wanted to see your eyes in a little girl's face. You're my Luna. You light up my entire damn sky. They remained like this until the sun set behind the hospital building, turning the sky the color of bruised peaches. When Electra finally stood up, her face was swollen, but her voice was steady. Javier grinned and said, I need ice cream. There's a place on Division that makes lavender honey. Your favorite. She took his hand. And then we go home and delete the baby name app. Deal, answered the man. But I am keeping Mateo. Bridget observed them from her office window, which had a cracked pane that she had been meaning to mend. Javier opened the car door for Electra, an old-fashioned yet loving gesture. Electra paused, returned her gaze to the clinic, and their eyes connected through the glass for a brief time. She raised her hand, not quite a wave, not quite a salute, and then vanished, taillights merging into traffic. Bridget's pager buzzed. Mrs. Chun in room 3, 39 weeks, contractions every 5 minutes. She grasped her stethoscope, its familiar weight anchoring her. In the corridor, the aroma of lavender remained as stubbornly as hope. She paused outside room 3, hand on the door. Inside, a lady prepared to meet her son for the first time. Outside, another woman was learning how to let go of a dream. Both were miracles, albeit in different languages. Bridget pushed open the door. Mrs. Chin, let's see how your little kid is doing. The woman's face brightened up, sweaty and radiant. Bridget reciprocated with a trained but genuine smile. She had torn up one future today, and she was going to help deliver another. The math never balanced, but the job continued. That night, Electra stood in their bungalow's bathroom, which had a clawfoot tub and a window that was stuck in July. The pregnancy tests were arranged on the counter like soldiers, 18 in total, all negative and mocking. She gathered them in a garbage bag, knotted them securely, and carried it to the curb. The night air was cold and fragrant with jasmine from the neighbor's fence. Javier followed with a bottle of wine and 2 plastic cups. They sat on the porch stairs, legs entangled. The wine was cheap and sugary, similar to what they drank on their first date. Javier poured and offered her a cup. To new chapters, he announced. Electra clinked her cup against his. To choosing each other. They drank. A dog barked somewhere on the block. A car alarm chirped, then stopped. Electra leaned her head against Javier's shoulder. I'm scared, she confessed. Me too, he replied. But being scared is better than being alone. She closed her eyes. In the darkness behind her lids, she saw torn fragments drifting down like snow, not the sterile white of the ultrasound. Snow could evaporate. Snow could melt and turn into water. Water could carve canyons. She took Javier's hand and put it on her heart. This is enough, she said. For now. He kissed her temple. Forever. 6 months later, Bridget ran into them at the farmer's market. Electra stood behind a table piled high with children's books, her hair braided with ribbons, giggling as a youngster attempted to eat a truck-themed board book. Javier was grilling skewers nearby, his apron splattered with sauce, and calling out orders in both Spanish and English. A chalkboard sign read, Proceeds support literacy initiatives for foster children. Bridget hesitated before approaching. Electra looked up, and the familiar pain flashed over her face. Then she smiled, smaller than before, but genuine. Hey, Doc, she said. Try the carnitas. Javi's secret recipe. Bridget grabbed a skewer. The beef was delicious, seasoned with cumin and remembrance. How are you? She asked. Electra noticed Javier, who was flipping skewers and singing off-key to a Bad Bunny song. We're good, she said. Very good. We'll be fostering a sibling set next month. 3 kids. Ages 4, 6, and 8. The paperwork is a nightmare, but, she shrugged, her eyes wide. Bridget's throat clenched as she said, worth it. I'm proud of you. Don't be, she said. Be proud of us. All of us, she said, gesturing to the market, the families, and the turmoil of life unfolding in vibrant hues. It turns out family is a choose-your-own-adventure. Javier waved his spatula. Bridget, do you need more sauce? She laughed, surprised by the sound. I am fine. Electra reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Thank you, she replied quietly. For the truth. Even if it hurt. Bridget hugged back. Thank you for the rewrite. She left with a full stomach and a lighter heart. Behind her, Electra's laughter soared above the sizzling of meat and the babble of children, a sound like water passing through stone. Electra sat on the side of the cot in the little examination room, her hands pulling the loose threads of the blanket under her. The fluorescent light above buzzed softly, adding to the room's cramped atmosphere. She tried to concentrate on her breathing, slow, steady, but her thoughts raced, unwilling to stop. Bridget had been gone for what seemed like hours. In truth, it had only been around 15 or 20 minutes. Electra continued telling herself that Bridget always took her time. She double-checked each bottle, scan and number. It was, in a way, soothing. Bridget did not convey any news, good or bad, without certainty. But now, the waiting felt like a storm brewing outside the window, heavy and unavoidable. Her foot tapped across the linoleum flooring. She didn't notice until she heard it faintly reverberate against the metal frame of the stool nearby. She froze, keeping her legs still. She had come here anticipating confirmation of her suspicions, hopes, fears, and she wasn't even sure anymore. She just knew something was weird. Or something different. Or both. The door handle clicked. Electra snapped her head upward. Bridget stepped inside, closing the door behind her with extreme caution, as if the least sound could break anything fragile in the room. She held a tiny packet against her chest. Her expression seemed overly tranquil. Bridget's calm face indicated that she was braced for contact. Electra gulped hard. Well, she inquired, attempting to keep her voice steady. It cracked anyway. Bridget did not respond at first. She approached the little stool, twisted it slightly, and sat across from Electra. Her eyes, which were usually sharp and alert, softened. Electra, she said gently, the word leaving her lips with a weight that sent Electra's heart racing. I reviewed everything twice. I wanted to make certain before saying anything. Electra felt her lips dry. Bridget exhaled slowly. You can't get pregnant. The word struck Electra like a blow to the chest, sharp, unexpected, and unsettling. She blinked. What? Bridget opened the folder, but she didn't appear to need to look through it. Your hormone levels, ovarian response, and scans all lead to the same conclusion. Your reproductive system isn't operating properly. It could have been this way for longer than you realized. Electra looked at her, feeling the room tilt. But, no, that can't be right. I realize it's a lot to take in. This doesn't make sense, Electra said, shaking her head. I have always been healthy. I've never experienced a serious issue. How could something like this happen without my knowledge? Bridget leaned forward slightly. Sometimes these things evolve quietly. Sometimes they are congenital, although symptoms do not develop until later. In your instance, the indicators point to a long-term condition that has been progressing slowly. Enough that your body adapts without causing noticeable concerns. Electra felt a searing sting behind her eyes. So you're saying if I wanted kids someday, that's just gone? Bridget paused. Not necessarily gone, but naturally? It's very unlikely, The silence that followed was oppressive. Electra glanced at the blank wall behind Bridget, her mind racing, her hands numb in her lap. She attempted to speak, but her throat clenched. Words came out broken. I don't. This wasn't supposed to be. Bridget set the folder next her and slid in closer, taking care not to crowd. Electra, look at me. She reluctantly raised her gaze. I didn't want to deliver this like it was the end of the conversation, Bridget remarked gently. There are options. There are paths. But we don't have to talk about all of that until you're ready. Electra breathed shakily, wiping away a tear that had escaped. Bridget pretended not to notice. That was one of the things Electra liked about her. She never made vulnerability seem like a show. However, the agony did not lessen. If anything, embracing Bridget's kindness made matters worse. It made her realize how real this moment was. I always pictured, maybe someday, Electra said quietly. I wasn't sure if I wanted kids now, but I wanted a choice. I thought I had time. Bridget nodded, almost whispering. Most people believe that. It's normal. Electra closed her eyes, her thoughts replaying the statement. You can't become pregnant. The finality of it shook her bones. She felt as if the ground had been torn out from beneath her, leaving her in a state of uncertainty and grief. She took a long breath, attempting to calm herself. I feel stupid, she mumbled. People have real problems, life-changing problems, and here I am, crying because a possibility was taken away. Electra, Bridget remarked firmly, breaking the cycle. This is an actual problem. This is your life. Your body. Your future. There's nothing minor about that. Electra's shoulders trembled as she breathed in. Bridget went on, you're allowed to mourn the loss of an expectation. Or a hope. Even if there wasn't a set plan. The maybe someday is important. Electra put her fists against her eyes. I thought I had time, she said, her voice trembling. Bridget waited patiently as she quietly cried, tears dropping onto the blanket she had been clutching so closely. After a long pause, Electra lowered her hands. She exhaled forcefully, the air escaping her lungs in a fragmented sigh. What am I even doing now? You don't need to do anything today, Bridget replied. Or tomorrow. We do it one step at a time. Electra nodded weakly. Bridget reached into the folder and drew out a little package. These are resources. Support groups. Specialists who can guide you through medical alternatives if and when you choose to pursue them. No pressure. Electra did not take it yet. She glanced at the papers, feeling a heaviness return. I feel like everything has just changed, she muttered. It did, Bridget acknowledged. Electra scoffed quietly. But that doesn't mean everything is lost. Feels like it. That's okay, Bridget remarked. It's okay to feel that way right now. Electra finally accepted the packet, but she didn't open it. Her hands trembled slightly. Bridget stood. Can I get you some water? Electra shakes her head. I just want to go home. Bridget's expression softened even further. Of course. I'll walk you out. Electra slid off the cot, her legs unsteady. She breathed through the disorientation when Bridget opened the door. The corridor was silent, with that late afternoon stillness that made every sound reverberate. As they strolled, Electra felt a strange detachment wash over her, as if she were observing someone else's life from afar. She heard the delicate squeak of Bridget's sneakers, the faint buzz of machines behind closed doors, and the distant ring of the reception phone. Everything felt too routine for the enormity of what she had just heard. They reached the exit.